We do not want to sit in the street.
We do not want to sit in the street.
But we are not being allowed.
But we are not being allowed.
By NYPD.
By NYPD.
To walk on the sidewalk.
To walk on the sidewalk.
Hey everybody, I'm your host Elad, and today I'm reporting to you outside Trump International Hotel, coming on the heels of Trump calling a national emergency to build a wall. We have some anti-wall protests over here, blocking traffic in New York City. Cops are very upset, so they're getting ready to push them off and threatening to arrest them. We have our officers on this side, protesters here, Trump Hotel over here. Let's see what happens. Why are you out here tonight?
Because the president illegally made up an emergency so he can get his wall. It's like a little kid throwing a temper tantrum.
Yeah. Do you think there's any sort of emergency happening at the border? He called it a national emergency.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The only emergency in this country is him being the president.
So I believe a lot of people were saying these were going to get struck down by lower courts. And
yeah, but Donald Trump has been in court his entire life. Everything he does in his personal life and ever since he's been the president has been in the court. And now he's got the courts rigged. So that's the first step in a dictatorship, and I'm not going to buy it. I haven't been buying it, and I'm not going to take it.
Yeah.
But I'm also not going to stand in the street. So
that's fair. I mean, was he rigging the courts, though?
Yeah, absolutely.
How is he rigging
he's
them?
handpicking people that are completely off the rails and getting them approved while he
like
can.
Kavanaugh and Gorsuch, you think are both off the rails? I mean, Kavanaugh worked in D.C. for a long time before that as a judge.
That's okay. I don't want to get into arguments about Kavanaugh. The problem is Donald Trump. Okay? There's always been two political parties in this country, and that's healthy. This is not healthy.
I think two is unhealthy.
This is it. Well, yeah, that's true. But this is absolutely not about politics. This is about the survival of what America's supposed to be, and this is all crap.
At one point, Trump was calling it a humanitarian issue because he was saying 80% of the women who cross over are raped, and he says 10,000 women are sex trafficked through the border each year. So that's one of his defenses for the wall. I wanted to ask you what you thought about that.
I think it's all made up. The only there is a humanitarian crisis.
So people aren't getting raped, and there aren't people being sex trafficked.
There is a humanitarian crisis at the border. Yes, absolutely. It's people that legally are trying to seek asylum in this country. International law allows them to seek asylum in this country, and our country's refusing to do so.
Yeah. I also want to ask, so El Paso and San Diego, they have walls that they enjoy. Should we tear those down or just stay with the amount of walls we currently have?
Walls don't mean a thing, okay? People go under walls, around walls, through walls. Our biggest enemy is cyber warfare. We're trying to fight 12th century warfare in the 21st century. Walls don't work.
They work some places. I mean, in those towns, they've seen a reduction in illegal immigration and crime in some places. I know in Israel it's worked for them too, but was there anything else you want to note?
Walls are not working in El Paso. El Paso solved its problem before there ever was a wall.
Okay. Anything else you want to note?
Yeah, fuck Trump.
Thank you for your time. You want to talk out here this evening?
I'm out here today as a member of Rise and Resist and Gays Against Guns because we have basically an insane person in the White House trying to control this country and every aspect about it, trying to make it a fascist country, trying to keep out people who are legally seeking asylum, doing nothing about gun control and gun violence in this country, we believe is the real emergency.
So do you think, he called it national emergency at the border, do you think there's any national emergency, humanitarian emergency at the border?
He's making it up. His base believes him. He's frightening them, saying all the right things to scare them into believing that Mexicans and people from Central America are monsters, they're the enemy, they have to be kept out, and really all they want to do is come here for a better life. My grandmother came here for a better life, and
so I know one thing, Trump's pro-asylum seekers, but he's against illegal immigration, and he wants people to go through the process.
He wants to make it harder for asylum seekers to seek asylum, and he wants to arrest everybody at the border, and because he thinks that they're trying to sneak in as illegal immigrants. Most of the people at the border right now are people seeking asylum from tyrannical governments.
Yeah. I also wanted to ask, one of the things that Trump said, and one of the reasons why he was touting this wall as a humanitarian issue, was saying that, 10,000 women are sex trafficked across the border year over year. Something like 6,000 gang members are caught trying to cross the border again every year. And there are bad things happening across the border. I wanted to ask, do you have any worries about those things?
I don't worry about that because it happens, and that's a problem, and we need to do something specifically about that. But a wall is not the answer.
Yeah. But we also have abolish ICE signs. Are we trying to deport people who are illegal immigrants who are criminals? Is that somewhere we can meet in the middle on? An illegal immigrant who happens to be a criminal, should ICE be able to deport him?
I mean, if you break the law, then, yeah, you should be dealt with. But most of the people separating children from their families and arresting Americans who are trying to give people water so they don't die of dehydration, the whole thing is a fascist regime, and it needs to end. He needs to be not only impeached but arrested.
So I know the Senate Intel Committee just said they couldn't find anything related to Russia yet. What other reasons do you think he should be impeached besides that one?
I'm positive that there's collusion. He's making money off of being the president, and that right there is illegal.
Where are you getting evidence of this collusion, though? How do you think Trump colluded with Russia?
I feel like he's making deals. He's opening the Arctic to the Russians. He is getting steel from Russia for the wall. He's made some deals, and he's being such a little crybaby about it because he has to come through with his promises that he made to Putin and the Russians.
Oh, so you think there are backdoor promises that he made to Putin that he's trying to fill, and the Mueller investigation hasn't uncovered anything, and the Senate Intel Committee hasn't come up with anything, but you're still holding out?
I'm pretty positive there's all kinds of bullshit going on.
Was there anything else you wanted to note?
No, that's it.
Thank you guys so much for your time. I appreciate it. Hey, so I see you guys are stuck in traffic here. We have people here protesting against Trump. I wanted to ask what you think here.
I think it's valid. I just want to go, but they have to do what they have to do. He's an idiot.
Are you considering joining?
Not really, but...
Because it doesn't look like you're going anywhere.
I mean, yeah, there's nothing I can do, honestly.
I wanted to ask you guys what you thought, why you out here, and what do you think about the events going on here?
Well, I think this is absolutely absurd, but everybody has the right to their form of protest. That's why we live in the United States. We give them these rights, but...
Are these guys formally protesting, though?
Well, I think this is their way of formally protesting, but I believe that they're invading on other people's rights and stuff here now and causing a scene and an issue. And at that point, I think they kind of lose the what they're trying to do, their fight there. So being from out of town, I've never experienced any of this, so I'm not for their cause whatsoever.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, do you think there's any merit to the wall?
I believe there's a merit to the wall. I believe it's a necessary thing, and I think that it's going to get built one way or the other, and I think we should embrace it and hope for the best.
Because I know a lot of communities, there's places like El Paso and near San Diego where they already have a wall, and then you've seen a significant drop in illegal immigration. Some areas have seen a drop in crime because of that. I was talking to a lot of people, asking them if they think that we should tear down those walls. I wasn't really getting a consistent answer. I wanted to ask what you think about those success stories with walls.
Well, I think it's going to continue to be a success story. Walls keep people out. Our officials and the Democrats have walls around their homes and their compounds. Maybe they should go down and live in the valley down there in El Paso and leave their doors unlocked and let people come on by and say hi to them.
I mean, it's awfully easy for a bunch of New Yorkers to tell us not to build a wall, right? I mean, we're one of the furthest states away from the southern border, so
it's always nice when it doesn't affect you, and you're making noise about it, but it's not affecting your life, so you really don't. They don't know. They don't know what it's about. I just ask them to go down there and spend a month and actually see what our law enforcement guys go through, and
they recommend a wall just across the board to make that clear. They recommend a wall, and they think it'll be easier to patrol with the wall, obviously. So
I agree, and I believe that's the way it'll funnel people into the ports and the proper way to come in. But I think there's a lot of immigration reform that needs to take place, and I don't like paying for things and other people who don't want to work and pull their share. So I think that we've got a long road to go, but we need definitely some reform in our immigration.
Was there anything else you want to note?
No, I just think this is absurd at this point. I think these people need to go find something better to do on their Friday afternoon or evening and stop blocking traffic. They're costing U.S. taxpayer dollars and New York City's dollars to have all these police officers out here to govern this protest, and I don't feel that's right, that the people of New York should be paying for this, and maybe they ought to reconsider their form of protest and how they do it. Go vote. That's the best way to try to do it. So
thank you so much for your time, sir. I really appreciate it. Thank you, guys. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your stay.
That right now there's a desire to do a deeper investigation. The Senate was led by the Republicans, and they were intentionally impeding any real investigation. And we know that they do that. They did it with Kavanaugh. They've done it with tons of people.
How did they do it with Kavanaugh?
Well, it's pretty obvious. Let's not get into that topic. But in the case of collusion,
so there was news this week that came out that said it's a bipartisan thing that the Senate Intel Committee did not find anything related with Trump and Russia. I don't know if you kept up or heard this.
I've absolutely
okay,
kept
so
up.
and what were you saying about that?
And that is because they have not used their subpoena power. They have not used many of the tools that a legitimate investigation would have.
And who do you want them to subpoena?
Oh, there's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Many of the oligarchs that Trump is working with.
The Russian oligarchs.
The Russians, I would like them to subpoena. We should be seeing his tax returns. We should be looking at his foundation in great detail.
Is there
we should
evidence?
be looking at the inauguration committee. We should be looking at the countless deals that he has, put into place, which have been ripping off all kinds of people. There is so many levels of corruption that the GOP have been trying to avoid, and they are not looking into it. So when the Senate said that there was a decision that they didn't see anything, that was patently biased and absolutely hiding. And I think at some point, the people that are hiding this, they are complicit too, and they too will be investigated.
Absolutely.
Okay, we gotta go.
Thank you guys so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
I just couldn't
Well, to support the people who are making their statement with civil disobedience, solidarity.
And what are they standing against?
Well, the obvious thing is the Trump ploys involving the closure of the government and so forth, but it's a global issue of abuse of power.
So in what ways do you think Trump's abused his power versus, presidents in the past?
Well, many presidents, including Obama, have paved the way.
Yeah, expanding their power and stuff like that.
We've had this inflation of the executive branch into a more imperial thing going back at least to Nixon. So in that sense, it's just pushing the envelope both further into the absurd and into the dangerous. Because at one point you get a situation where a republic turns into an empire if you keep messing with the balance of power.
So obviously the people are fearful of this being a little bit of an expansion of power in the president, and I'm also concerned about that. Right. But is there any merit to the wall, do you think?
I think it's completely ridiculous.
All the walls, all of it?
Absolutely. In fact, I think national boundaries shouldn't really be in play.
Yeah.
Period.
So I know a lot of people had different concerns about the wall, but Democrats in the past have supported it, and different areas already have built walls, such as El Paso, and had a lot of success with them. Should we also be telling those cities to tear down their walls?
If it's a local wall, it's a local decision.
Okay.
But there weren't any walls before 1978.
I'm not familiar, but...
Yeah, under Jimmy Carter was the very first time, and it was a huge expansion of power on the part of the INS, now Homeland Security, to do this. Before that, there was no wall. Yeah. We also have to remember that this border is actually in Mexico.
I believe some of it needed to be claimed by eminent domain, which is... I have huge problems with that.
My point is that we have to remember in 1846, the United States stole all of this land from Mexico in the first place. If you remember, they went to Mexico City and threatened the government in order for Mexico to make a treaty to cede California, Arizona.
So should we be giving that stuff back, or so what's the point? So just because we fought a war with them in the past, we shouldn't build a border and now something that we consider our sovereign territory? Because we could be talking about what happened a couple of 100 years ago forever, but
it's a moral thing in the sense that we're already on genocide, stolen land from Native Americans. So, I mean, unless you're native, you're already from somewhere else. You're either brought here as a prisoner, or you're an immigrant of some sort. So, in that sense, if you want to argue it in the big picture, you have to look in terms of, we can't straighten out our lives here, those of us who live here now or our descendants, until we straighten out this history, until these things are acknowledged and part of the history. You can't ignore it. No, it's not like I have a grudge because you did this to me. The point is that the turnaround and villainize people in Mexico, you know, on a completely, basically white supremacist, self-congratulatory posture, you have to look at what the consequences of that are.
Well, I think a lot of people are worried about illegal immigrants getting really good treatment when we have a lot of citizens in our United States now that aren't getting the treatment they deserve. I'm talking about, you know, veterans. I'm talking about homeless people, you know, and intersectional communities that are dealing with a lot of different issues.
Right. Why shouldn't they be treated well? Exactly.
No, but why should we be treating non-citizens better than citizens?
It shouldn't be an either-or question. Okay. The problem is anybody who's doing that, they're making a false opposition.
But doesn't the government owe a special responsibility to their citizens before citizens of other nations?
That's an interesting area.
That's what I think. Yeah.
It's an interesting area, but the problem is that when citizenship is used as an exclusionary device, you end up creating
we still take in immigrants. But I also wanted to ask, because Trump was framing it as a humanitarian issue, and some quick stats that were mentioned and backing him up. This is why he said it. 80% of the women who end up getting crossed end up being raped, and I think it's about 10,000 women year over year are sex trafficked in through those through the border where there wasn't a border. So I want to ask about that, and this specifically targeting women.
That's opportunistic, though. Okay, because, well, if you're talking about women who are abused en route, why are they leaving Honduras?
Well, for a better life. But everybody wants to come to the United States.
It's a piece of tourism in this case. It's unlivable in these countries. And you have to also look at why this is the case. Sure. The U.S. has been intervening in these countries since the early 1900s.
But should we be taking in all the citizens of all countries that aren't as good as the United States? Because, I mean, in my opinion, that's every other country.
Who's not as good as the United States?
I think the United States offers all of its citizens a better life than all the other countries in general. And anybody could make the argument that, you know, we should be letting them in because their countries aren't as good, which is, you know, there are problems in every country in the world.
I think that's a ridiculous distinction. It's enough. It's enough? Why? All right, whatever.
Did you have anything else you want to note?
No, I mean, I could go on all night, but... No, it's just a conversation.
Talking about asylum, people have the right for asylum.
No, it's true. People do have the right to asylum.
About asylum seekers, you're making it into a ridiculous story.
No, he's asking the question from the point of view of a way a lot of people in the United States
These are the questions that will come up if anybody's speaking to you. That's exact other points, and it's important to talk.
I think the assumptions under the questions are not true to the situation.
Well, have I been saying anything that's like misleading? Because
no. I just don't think I don't think they're comprehensive enough.
Okay.
Okay. You have to look at that. You have to look at the proportion of wealth that's controlled in the United States. You have to look at the effects on the entire Western Hemisphere.
But so now, is this a border issue, or is this an income inequality and wealth inequality issue?
Well, actually, to a great extent, it is an income and wealth inequality.
The wall is.
No, the wall. No, the whole issue with people having to migrate to the United States.
Well, there are a lot of countries poorer than the United States where people would want to migrate. We offer people a ton of welfare and a ton of benefits for coming in. And we incentivize people to come.
We don't actually offer a ton of welfare. Okay. If you know anybody who is having to deal with public assistance, you're insulted at such a deep level that you might think twice.
So let me explain. Let me explain what I mean by that. Let me explain what I mean by that. So taxpayer money is going to things like schools right now, and people who do illegally immigrate get to benefit off of things like that.
Well, good. People need education regardless of who and where they're from.
Absolutely, and I agree. But the point is that it's other people's money going to non-citizens.
Okay, let's turn it around. What about the U.S. military?
What about the U.S. military?
Why should all the money go to the military instead of people?
So, well, more of the annual budget goes to things like welfare and Social Security than it does in the military. And the military
discretionary budget goes.
But that's money. That's money nonetheless. Indiscretionary money is money nonetheless, right? When we say indiscretionary, that's still money that's coming from the taxpayers, right?
Yeah.
And the military requires so much money to help us keep us safe and sovereign.
Safe from what? When was the last time the United States was invaded by a foreign army?
Well, I'll explain to you.
1812.
So let me explain to you. Well, one of the reasons why is because we have such a large army. But another thing is that we run the oceans and we allow free trade to occur. So,
I'm not sure. Okay, my time's up.
Anything else? Just
no. I could go on, but time's up.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I want to ask you first and foremost, why are you out here this evening?
Because I believe in American democracy.
And what's harming American democracy now?
We have someone who regards himself as the president of this country who clearly has no idea what the Constitution says.
Okay, I wanted to ask, do you think there's a national emergency at the southern border?
No.
Do you think there's any humanitarian issues going on at the southern border?
Humanitarian issues.
So I believe 80%
brought into existence by the actions of Trump and his administration.
Could you please elaborate? What do you mean?
Babies in cages.
So children have been separated from their parents under other administrations as well. Was there an issue when they were happening under those administrations?
I'm here now.
I also wanted to ask, so I think there's a huge humanitarian issue at the southern border. Approximately 80% of the women who cross over get raped. 10,000 women are sex trafficked into the United States through the southern border year over year. I wanted to ask, what do you think about those humanitarian issues at the border that perhaps a wall could stop?
The wall is not going to stop any of those.
Why not?
There is no justification for a wall.
Okay.
If you're here to get me to say that I believe in a wall, you can fuck off.
I'm just saying, is there any merit to the wall? You go. Thank you for your time. Foremost, why are you out here tonight, and what do you think of these protests and Trump declaring a national emergency?
Well, I'm out here for a couple reasons. First of all, I support the protest, and second of all, I'm a student reporter. Of Trump declaring a national emergency, it's legally within his power, but I think it's wrong that presidents can just declare national emergencies like this. The emergency powers of the president are ridiculously broad, and honestly, I feel like they're unconstitutional.
You think this is an overreach, but did you think the wall had any merit?
No, the wall doesn't have any merit. I heard you talking about...
I could talk to you about some of those statistics.
Honestly, I think the difficulty of legal immigration is why that you're getting all this smuggling and human trafficking and harm being done. If it was easy for people to come over, if there was no need for smugglers, you wouldn't see this problem.
Would we not still have sex trafficked people coming?
You probably would still have sex trafficked people coming, but I'd say less so, and a wall is certainly not the way to solve it.
Yeah. So I know 90% of our fentanyl that comes to the United States comes from south of the border. Do you think a wall has any potential to reduce any of that?
I don't really think a wall has any potential to reduce any of that. Smugglers have far more time and ingenuity on their hands to find holes in the border, to find ways through.
Holes in the border as opposed to just no wall part of the border?
Honestly, I think a wall is a little bit of a blunt situation. If you want to solve the problem of fentanyl coming from those states, you probably should work with those states to improve the conditions there. Why are people needing to sell drugs in America, smuggle drugs to America to stay afloat? So
to prevent illegal immigration, we should just start building up these other nations.
Well, why not? If people want to come to America because it's so great compared to where they live, if where they live was better.
Yeah. Well, because we should be taking care of our own citizens first. We still have veterans with health issues, a huge homeless population, and a ton of people in poverty, right? So why wouldn't we help those people first as opposed to, other countries, and then illegal immigrants from other countries is what people would ask?
Well, if you want to, I would say why build a wall when you're trying to help those other people? There's quite a bit of money that could probably be better spent actually helping citizens.
I question the goal, because if the goal is to reduce illegal immigration, I think a better thing to do that would save money for the country is reduce welfare, because one of the big reasons that these people come here is because we have great benefits for people without a lot of money. So, I think rolling back welfare would be more effective. Some of these people think a wall will be more effective. I'm sure it would reduce it to some degree, reduce child trafficking to some degree. You can't traffic women, through ports of entry as easily. And again, a lot of these women are raped. They're often sent with Plan B from their parents, expecting to be raped by whatever coyotes sneak them over. So it's a humanitarian issue too. And I think a wall could help prevent some of that. So that's just kind of my angle. I wanted to ask your thoughts.
Well, I would disagree with you there, but it's a complicated subject that would require probably more discussion than I can give you on a street corner.
Absolutely. Also, they were handing out this Abolish ICE sign. I wanted to ask, what do you think about Abolish ICE? There's a lot of those here, and I think that goes hand in hand with the issue.
Abolish ICE is a very catchy slogan. I do support a lot of reforming of the organization because the way it's set up is pretty exploitative. It incentivizes bad behavior by ICE employees. There's been a lot of shit they've done, like going on to...
How does it incentivize bad behavior?
do not remember enough of what I've read about this in the last few weeks to give you a good answer on this. But it worked, as far as I recall, it works similarly to many other enforcement agencies, where they need to prove that there's a need for their organization to exist.
Yeah. And they don't need to prove that need. I mean, isn't it clear with the amount of illegal immigration? I could go over the numbers for how many people with criminal records and people who are gang related that come over the border each year, but
opposed to the number of people who are gang related or have criminal issues that are already living in the United States.
Yeah, I mean, so why would we add more people to the problem would be the question, right? If we could prevent any amount of gang members from coming in.
Well, what's the percentage compared to the total of legal?
So I know around 6,000 gang members a year are caught trying to enter the country again annually. So
versus how many immigrants in general are trying to enter the country annually.
I mean, well, no people should be coming in illegally is the point. And then some people coming in illegally happen already. I think 17,000 have criminal records, and around 6,000 are gang members. But I understand that some people are trying to get in illegally, but have good reason to. And I think those people should apply for citizenship and go through the process just like everybody else. Because if we undermine our system, then nobody's going to want to do it legally, and then we're encouraging the illegal behavior. I wanted to ask what you thought about that.
Yeah, honestly, I think the way to solve that is just to make legal immigration easier. It's a pain in the ass. I'm from Texas. I've talked to a lot of people who are trying to go through the citizenship process. It's extraordinarily difficult, and it often can lead to people getting deported when they're almost there.
I'm not familiar with, but
yeah, I mean, I can't give you a good names or examples for obvious reasons, but
was there anything else you wanted to note?
Oh, no. Is there any more questions you wanted to ask?
Just that. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. Hey, everybody. Thank you guys so much for tuning into another episode. I wanted to pose the question back to you. What do you think about Trump trying to build this wall and declaring a national emergency? Let me know what you think down in the comments below. If this is your first time here, guys, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. As always, until next time, stay barely informed.
Emergency!
Who's the emergency?
Trump is the emergency!
Who's the emergency?
Trump is the emergency!
Who's the emergency?
Trump is the emergency!
Who's